Hello and welcome to this edition of Brand Buzz with me, Ankita Saxena. It's a show where we get you the latest update on the consumer landscape, on what's brewing in the space of advertising and marketing. And well, in the recent years, there has been an exponential growth in the sports tech industry in India and globally. Well, the maturing of the domestic sector has seen the proliferation of technology catering to various stakeholders in sports, including fans, athletes, teams, governing bodies, and even the match officials. Investors, entrepreneurs, and major tech companies are actively contributing to the advancement of technology, aiming to help India emerge as a true sporting powerhouse. Well, to weigh in on the growth opportunity for the sports tech industry, I'm joined by Prashanth Rao, who's partner Deloitte India. Hi, Prashanth. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us today. Prashanth, what is the projected growth for sports tech industry in 2025 and what has led to this rapid growth and what are going to be the levers of growth going ahead?
Okay. So if you look into it, the sector of sports technology can be kind of broadly bifurcated into fan engagement, sports data analytics, and core technology. So in within this also, in fan engagement, there is ticketing experience, commerce, ad tech, fantasy sports, sports gaming, esports. These are the subcomponents. And again, when you talk about sports and data analytics, it's data analytics and variables are the two things which come under it. And core tech is mostly all the technology provision that you do in terms of computing, the 5G data, etc. So which is kind of kept away from this particular thing. So now coming to the specific point that you asked in terms of growth and how is it going to grow further from here and what are the drivers on this. Currently, we estimate this industry to be around 26,700 crores and growing at about 13% CAGR to get at 49,500 crore by about 2029. So if you have to look into the major drivers to this particular growth, some of them is one is the growth in the sports industry itself. So as the sports industry is growing, it will have its own niche needs, which will be fulfilled by technology. So one, the growth of the sports sector itself has been a propeller. And of course, our aim to become a sporting nation and a stated goal towards it. And we asking or stating saying that we want to go ahead and host the 2036 Olympics and a lot of things that we're going to do towards that. That's going to be one of the driver. And as you look into it, technology is also progressing in a rapid pace. So if you look into it, if you have to take your glucose level earlier, there had to be a incision with a syringe. Your blood had to be taken out, and after some time, you had to get your glucose levels per se. Now you can have a continuous glucose monitoring device, size of a small coin, sitting in your arm, and then continuously giving data about you. So these kind of advancement will make ensure that you can have applicability towards sports. Then other things to look at it is the affordability of the Indian consumer to kind of go and spend for what do you say, consumption of sports, consumption of sporting equipment, consumption of technology to that extent by paying a price that it deserves. That's another driver which is completely driving it. And then the last part would be the digital adoption as you look into it. That's also been one of the key drivers.
Right. Also, Prashant, what are the significant trends driven by technological advancements and evolving user preferences?
Okay, so if you look into the trends on that side, there is the entire ecosystem that comes into play. If you look at a nascent stage where a athlete has gone ahead and picked up, so scouting. So there is a bunch of things which are happening on the scouting side of it. Then there is a bunch of things which are happening at a coaching side of it. So in the coaching part of it, you're using high tech technology right now to get the thing very, very right. And also, all of the sensors which have been put into play is leaving behind a lot of digital trail, right? Which was not available earlier. And when you give this digital trail to something like a machine learning and an AI, it will kind of do the right a trend analysis. It will give the right prediction to say, you know what, in these circumstances, these are the events which are happening. So people can go ahead and improve the game accordingly. We are seeing a lot of development of new games in the video gaming front, which are coming from a AR, VR perspective. So we're seeing game of cricket we being developed on a Meta or a and this thing you can put an device to your eye and experience realistic gameplay sitting at a corner of your house. Also what we are kind of experiencing is when the games are being played at the stadiums are getting very tech enabled, and as we call it as smart stadiums. So this is encompassing multiple things, whether it may be safety and security at a stadium through technological use, giving right access, surveillance, etc., are coming into play. Whether it is contactless payment that we are kind of doing as we go ahead into this. It is targeted marketing by use of 5G and stadium, which are kind of converted into Wi-Fi, which can handle high loads and volumes of people at one go. Earlier, if you go into a stadium, the load at a particular peak point of time would ensure that you cannot do anything on your mobile. Now you can see something on your second screen there, participate into contests, be a very interactive consumer. So the consumer who's basically consuming content can no longer be just a passive consumer, but also actively interact with the game itself. That's another trend that we're kind of looking into it. And as a part of this, people are ensuring relevant ads are thrown to them so that there is conversion on a real-time basis. That's something we are looking into it, and ad tech market is also growing rapidly. So broadly the trend is athlete performance and the fan experience on an immersive basis and interaction with the fan, athlete, and the game. So this is kind of gone up, and overall this is ensured that the longevity of the game. Normally a game happens for say 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, thereafter there is discontinuation. But now or a season is there for about 1 month, and then thereafter discontinuation between the fan and the game. Now there is continuity. There are content which is being produced even beyond it, and then there are active participation using social media. With the every team has got a proper campaign, has got a proper content delivery mechanism, and these are some things that we are changing, seeing as changing.
Right. Also, Prashant, the very key component of the sports technology industry is the fantasy sports industry. Now, that up until now has been a booming industry thus far, but the industry experts estimate that the revenue growth has slowed with a mere 11% growth in FY25 and is expected to see a degrowth of 10% in FY25. What are the reasons that are really weighing down this sector then?
Okay. So if you look into it, in the taxation policy around fantasy sports has undergone some change. So earlier, especially on the indirect tax part of it, earlier the indirect tax applicable to this sector was 18% on the platform fees. The platform fees typically is 15% of the overall entry value that you're going to go into the contest entry fees. So if you are paying 100 rupees, and with that 100 rupees you're entering into a contest, 15 rupees would have been your contest entry fees, and on that 15, 18% would have been the GST you would have paid. Now, if you go ahead and look into the same 100 rupee being deposited, 28% will be deducted upfront on the contest deposit amount, not the contest entry fees, but on the deposit amount. There has been a change on the value of the deposit, value of the taxation, and also the base on which it's going to be taxed. But it's not a like to like saying that okay, 15 became 28 as such. What happens here is the incidence is now on the deposit. So once you deposit a value, like if you have 100 rupees to kind of invest in your account, you would not go ahead and invest all the 100 rupee in one type of instrument, right? You would put something in gold, something in mutual fund, something in shares, something in fixed deposit. Similarly, if you go for a game and you kind of deposit 100, you may not use all of that 100 to play in one game. So you play 30 rupees one game, 30 another game, 30 another game. So may you lose the one and two, but you may win the third game. Thereby, you replenished with the value of 100. Now you can use this 100 to play three more games. So that's what we call a spin. So there is these elements also come into play when the overall taxation effect come into play per se. So the government has said that it's going to observe the industry for some time and it's going to come up with some changes. But all said and done, at the immediate point, if tax goes up, then the amount which is either the platform fee has to go down or the price pool has to go down. So with this particular thing, there has been a little bit of a movement around this. So some of the larger players have observed the GST impact in the way, by the way of promotions, additional offers which are given to kind of lure customers and ensure that customers don't go away from the this thing. But however, some of them who cannot do that, it become not really viable, wherein the amount you deposit is the same, but you get a smaller price pool. So some users may have also kind of reduced or moved away from the platform. So these are some of the and whosoever has not been able to do that funding or reduced margins, they have kind of wound up. So that has resulted in industry doing a little bit of consolidation on this side. So that's the reason behind slight degrowth into this. But if you look at a larger picture, in any sector which is kind of booming, when it's booming and mushrooming, there will be a large growth which will happen in the initial period when there are regulations are not very well defined, etc. So after a period of time, then there'll be specific move towards a direction which can kind of slow down the growth at that point. So this is something that we're seeing. We see that there are about 22 crore fantasy sports users who are there right now. That number is bound to go up again. And we are estimating that 12% growth will be there from now till 2029 and resulting in about end value of around 12,900 crore by that particular period of time.
Also, Prashant, let's talk about the innovation and the AI disruption then. What is the role of technology in transforming sports and also enhancing the consumer experience nowadays?
Right. So if you look into it earlier, see, analytics and sports are not always apart. It's always there. But earlier, you needed a keen eye to kind of spot something which is happening. So if I take a popular game, say, let's look at cricket, one would kind of identify with a keen eye, you know what, this batsman is getting out, whether he's a good player of spin, he's a good player of fast bowling, he kind of gets out when it's short pitch. These are things which will come out when it's very obvious and it's kind of visible to it, or a keen eye of a coach will identify this weakness and then someone will go ahead and exploit that. Now, to do this, if you had to kind of create data, earlier someone had to look at a thing and people used to kind of create from the image data points. They need to create a data point. When I have to give you a simple example on the same lines, if a ball is being bowled, there can be 15 to 20 data points which are collected here, whether it's a fast ball, whether it's off spin, leg spin, right arm bowler, left arm bowler, did he bowl from behind the crease, front of the crease, was it offside, leg side, all of that stuff. Yeah, was the batsman right-hander, left-hander, all of the data points are collected and what was the result. Now, if you put AI into it, AI can do all of this in no time. So the cost required to do this and the accuracy of doing it is so much so better. At the same time, if you take another example of what do you say, some kind of a tracking device to look at a game of squash, how many what do you say rally did you go for? When do you kind of miss it out? All of that can be integrated into a small device which can be put into your racket. So the amount of advancement which are happening in the technology is really very high. And this can be used in three different manners, if I have to kind of summarize it. One is for the athlete himself, like what we are saying, how to improve his game and prevent injury. There can be things such as your heart rate is being constantly monitored, your fatigue levels are being monitored. So in a football game, you can substitute the person not after you look at the coach looks like, okay, now he's not running this fast, let me pulling him out. But before even the fatigue steps in, he can pull out that person and put someone else, so that injury never happens. Prevention of injury, better performance, this on the athlete side of it. If you come to the fan himself, the fan will have immersive experience right now with the use of technology, whether it is compression with the same channel, same bandwidth. You may be able to send four channels of signals. So you can choose which angle you want to. You may want to see your favorite cricketer all through, or you may want to watch it in a language of your choice, which is not actual commentary, but it's actually a AI which is converting it on a real time basis in a realistic manner and giving it to you. So these kind of things can come to you at a given point of time. If we look at our current Olympics itself, right? Earlier, when the broadcast of Olympics used to happen, or earlier Olympic medal tally, you used to read in your next day morning's newspaper and figure out how many medals came through or not. This time, when it was given on OTT, you can choose what game, what type. You can set up notifications to be noted on sent to you on a specific game, so that you don't miss out your favorite play or favorite passage of play. How highlights are curated to be presented in the right manner, whatever you would want. So these kind of advancement we are seeing on a or looking at it even from a VR perspective, right? I can lay out the field of game in front of my table by putting on a VR and look at it like a giant standing on top of a stadium and getting a view. These are things we could not have imagined before, right? So those are things for the player. If you go to the third angle, which is to the game itself, whether it is tracking of the ball, which can be done by cameras automatically, whereby you can kind of relay the capture a game. Maybe to capture a game earlier, it would have costed very high, so not enabling or making it viable to capture a local tournament or a school game. Now you can just set up the three or four stable cameras, AI enabled, in the ecosystem, and it can capture every movement which is happening there, which can either be used to telecast, either be used to your own improvement by looking at what's happening. You can subscribe to those, or you can kind of go ahead and use it for sharing as memory. You go ahead, play with your friends, you capture that data, you pay for it additionally. Monetization of these kind of events can kind of come in. And also game can become better by doing some of those error calls, right? Whether it's inside the line, outside the line, where would the ball ended at the same trajectory if it had gone this way. So these kind of, or the speed of this particular delivery, how he kind of improvised on those. So those kind of things are improving the game itself. So whether it's the game, athlete, and the fan, all of them are being benefited by advancement in technology.
Right, Prashant, finally, we spoke about the innovations in sports tech, the headroom for growth, but what are really the challenges in the sports tech industry?
So very relevant question on that side. So what happens with anything which is growing at this pace, right? There will be some kind of challenges which will come in from, especially if there is a digital footprint that it's leaving, then there is a lot of data being captured about everyone, every move. You look, imagine your heart rate being captured by a watch. It's being sent to one organization. Your steps are being sent across, your GPS locations are being sent across. So various things, so faces being captured. So various things happening at this point of time. So security of all of this is of prime concern and prime this thing. So adoptability of all of this will be based on people's confidence to trust a system and go ahead and start using it. So for this, we'll need a very stable cyber governance, and cyber security also has to grow up in that sense. So to get the user confidence. So that's one of the key challenges that we are seeing as these grow. The second challenge that we are looking at it is as we look into all of this, there is three things which are required for adoption. One is your it should be affordable to all. And they should be able to use it in a very easy manner. So if you look into it, what are the ways in which you can consume this? To consume it, you need mostly data and internet that is available in India at abundance. You need a what do you say, device, and we have smartphones available in plenty in India. So that's a green tick on that side. But where the question mark comes in is the price points at which these are released. If something is very effective but the price point is very high, people will not be able to use it in masses. So it will only be limited to some, and eventually it will not be able to see the light of the day. If you look into it, some of the most experiential VR headsets which were launched, even by the greatest of the companies who are known for their designs, they couldn't succeed because they couldn't make it affordable to the users to kind of go ahead and use it. So affordability becomes one big challenge on that side. And then as you go through all of this, for the adoption perspective, there is a what do you say, a challenge of skill. When you look at it, when we look at sports specifically, and a country like India, a lot of it is at a grassroots level and at a rural level. So a lot of the federations, people, they may not know to use these technologies. They may not be computer savvy. They may not be able to kind of type and use a few things per se. So there's the resistance to change perspective also which can come in. But some of these can be solved by voice command, that can be solved by AI, which can kind of do not just take inputs in the mode of writing, etc., but it can be solved. But broadly looking at it, these are three broad challenges that we look at, which can prevent the growth.
All right, Prashanth, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us for an insightful conversation. And well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Brand Buzz. I'll see you same time next week. See you soon.